Welcome to the TufFish Show. I am so excited to bring to you Barbara Conrey. Barbara, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you are too. And I would love for you to start with sharing, how did you get into writing?
Actually, I've always wanted to write. I just stuffed it down somewhere deep because every time I looked for a job, it came up to be something that was analytical. So there was no time for writing. But in my head, I always wanted to write. And I would think, this would make a good story. This would be a great title. Those kind of things were always in my head, but I never did anything with them. So finally, when I retired, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I waited until I retired. And then I just sat down the very next day after my last day of work and I started writing. And I've been doing it ever since. And that's 6, 7 years ago.
It's awesome. That is awesome. I love that. I love that because it also shows that, sometimes a door closes and it helps you go to where you're supposed to go next. It's kind of like welcoming the closed doors instead of looking at them as disappointment. There might be some, but to also look at that and say, well, this is just moving me closer to where I'm supposed to be.
Right. I believe I've always been meant to do what I'm doing.
Oh.
I didn't realize it would be so hard and also so much fun.
Yes.
So, and it's been fun. I've met wonderful people. I've never met a community that is as generous as what other authors are. I've learned so much and it just amazes me. I really embrace being part of that world. I'm joyous about it. Absolutely.
Oh, I love that so much. So to your point, what was something that might have been considered hard, but yet it's also kind of fun?
In terms of writing?
That, or the fact that it's in more than writing, it's kind of like it's a business.
Oh, yes, there's that. Yes. When I was writing and when I first joined a writing organization that I truly love, a lot of other authors said, don't forget, it's a business. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure what that means, but I won't forget it. And it came to me that I learned exactly what they meant by it's a business. It was important for people to know who I was. And because I was a new author, it's not an easy business. There's like a plethora of authors. There's books coming out everywhere by good, bad, and different. And so I needed to let people know that Barbara Conrey existed. And that was kind of hard. And I did find a way to do it though, and that is by volunteering. My hand went up. It's like if somebody needed something that I could do, I did it. And I really, through word of mouth, people said, she's kind of a nice person. And so I thought, well, that's a step in the right direction, So I do a lot of reviews. I read a lot of books. Now that I'm published and I hit that absolute awesome and I just lost my train of thought. I hit that awesome big list, the USA Today. People ask me to blurb their books. And so I've had the absolute joy of seeing my name on the back of books, which is like, with a blurb from USA Today, author of Nowhere Near Goodbye. And I'm just It's like a free advertisement. So I had to get my name out there, and it's not always easy. I've always been kind of a quiet kind of person, which a lot of authors are. And but I worked at it, and slowly I think I've developed a little bit of a followings, maybe you could call it. I'm kind of embarrassed to even say that word, but people do know who I am, in a small version of my writing community. So that's a good step for me, and it's worked well.
I love that because so a few things that you've said here that I've gleaned, one of which is, like you said, leveraging volunteering so that you put yourself out there in a way of service, being of service, and that goodness comes back to you tenfold when you do.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does.
Yeah, but you also talked about basically the power of referral, but the power of networking. Could you talk a little bit more, like, as an introvert, as someone new into this field, whether introverted or not, but how did you do those things, building it one at a time, because you really were making connections, one person, one book, one situation? How did you do that?
It takes a lot of time. Um, the first thing I started doing was, obviously on social media. I would either post something funny about myself or something that might relate to my book, but I tend to post more about myself or my beagle, Molly, and that drew a big following. And through Molly, I learned about the Beagle Freedom Project, which is a rescue organization that rescues beagles from product testing laboratories. And I followed their organization, and I got involved with it, and I promote it. And again, this is one more thing that I have built, that, okay, that people associate my name with lover of dogs, specifically lover of beagles. I write about beagles in both of my books. The second book isn't published yet, but there's like a sideline of beagles and what they go through and how loving they are and how important the Beagle Freedom Project is. And I also make a point to respond when other people comment or make a creative post on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and I respond, and I always try to keep it light and funny. Like, I've been called the person who makes other people laugh, which is a joy to me because I like to make people laugh. I didn't even know I like to do that, but apparently I do. It was just something I discovered through this whole experience of becoming an author,
Yeah.
that I could make people laugh. Interestingly enough, though, I don't write funny books. I tend to write the kind of books that I like to read. So, which made sense to me. But so I'm kind of like opposites. Like, there's two different parts of me, but people get that. They kind of get that there's the writing me who likes to write about dark, who can turn it into something beautiful. But then there's the part of me who likes to make people laugh. And
But that's bringing
it's
joy
kind of,
too. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So I'm kind of an enigma, I think.
I like that. That's so cool though. But what I'm hearing is really that connection, that taking the time to really connect and recognize it's not just someone, this random thing, for the most part, they're people who are truly commenting. You can tell a genuine comment or post in a social feed versus a bot that's just slid through and just commented really quickly. You can tell when it's authentic. And
absolutely.
and I love that when that happens, I love that you take the time to respond just as authentically as they did. And that, to me, I think that's beautiful because that is a way of creating connection.
Yes, and it is, as you said, it is one by one. It takes time. I think it takes time to build strong relationships. Um, and I'm willing to give that time. What amazes me is the authors who are much younger than I am, and they have full-time jobs, they have young children, and yet they still do these things too. And those are the people that I think are really phenomenal, because I honestly, I don't know how they do it. You know, it's like it all takes time. And it's another thing I was told, which I think was very important, is that it's not a sprint. The publishing business is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It takes time. And it takes mile after mile after mile. And no matter how slowly you run, you're still running. You're still going toward a goal. And that's how I look at myself. I look at myself as I'm every day, I'm like building something. I'm building something that makes it stronger. And whether that's goodwill toward me or my goodwill toward someone else, it still, it makes for a stronger bond. And I enjoy that very much.
Oh, I love that so, so much. And you're 100% right. I think of it in the same context that it is a marathon. In fact, um, so I like animals just like you do. And near me, we will do turtle releases. And when they do that, I think it's so cool to go, because that's been a turtle that was rehabilitated in some way. But you can see that turtle, once they know they're by the ocean, they're ready to go, but they go on their own accord. They go as fast or as slow as they can. And they don't worry about what everybody else is doing, but they get where they're supposed to go. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I love
That
that
must be
because
phenomenal to watch.
oh, it's so cool. And but I just, it's like what you're describing. Whenever I feel like that, I think about it's okay to be a turtle here. It's okay to be a
Mhm.
turtle, Jen. It's a marathon. Keep being the turtle and keep taking each step, keep moving forward, and keep having the passion and focus on your lane. Don't worry about
Right.
it.
But I give credit to the turtles, because they don't pay attention to what any other turtle is doing. And that's hard to do when you're an author. It's
Yeah.
hard not to see the person who really hit it big from the minute their book released. And not compare yourself.
Mhm.
And I think I do okay with that. I really think I do. I think it's easier because those are generally authors who I don't know. So it's easier to just like not pay any attention to them. It might be a little more difficult if it's somebody that I started the whole publishing part with, and we started together, and then one of us goes ahead and one of us stays behind. That's a little bit harder and it takes a little work, but it's important to focus on what I'm doing and to give them the credit that is due to them.
Yes.
And it can be an effort, but it's an effort that I think is well worth working on and well worth doing. So I try. I'm not perfect, I might spend 5 minutes saying, but then I'm okay. It's like I
Yeah.
have to get that out of the way,
Yeah.
and then I'm fine.
But in the same breath, when you see someone else be successful or achieve something that you would like to do, like for instance, you have achieved a USA Today best author list. Hey, you know what? That means that it's possible for someone else too. And that is, but they should, but also to celebrate what you accomplished just as much. So I liken it to the fact that there's more than enough to go around to
Yes,
celebrate. When you celebrate someone else's success like that, it will come back. It will come back as it should, as it appropriately
absolutely.
for you.
Absolutely. I really do believe that. I truly believe that. And that's what keeps me going. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not normally an optimistic person, I don't think, but when it comes to my writing career and what I know and what I feel and what I think is possible, I think my optimism has perked its little head up, and it said, this is good. You can do this. And I feel confident that way.
Love it.
Probably because I'm constantly learning. I learn so much. And how do I do that? Well, yeah, I take classes and I read craft books. I am the queen of buying craft books and taking classes, but also from the people who have helped me. They teach me something every day.
Yes.
So I'm lucky. I'm just very lucky.
I love that. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about Nowhere Near Goodbye. How did that come about?
Okay, well, I used to work in the healthcare industry, and a friend of mine had a granddaughter who was diagnosed with glioblastoma. And at the time, and which is a brain tumor, at the time, I'd never even heard of it. And then it wasn't too much longer than I heard, well, yeah, Ted Kennedy was diagnosed and he died. And so, okay, then it got to be like more in the news. And this child was 9 years old. And she was diagnosed, and which is supposed to be very rare because it generally hits middle-aged men. But this was a 9-year-old little girl who was diagnosed. Her father was an oncologist. He is an oncologist. And he tried to do everything he could to save his daughter. And my friend, she just literally turned gray. She literally lost all life through watching her granddaughter die.
Yeah.
And it made me angry. It made me angry in the sense that there was nothing I could do. And I started doing research and discovered that this disease that they say is so rare is really not all that rare. And in the course of the time from when my friend's granddaughter was diagnosed till today, I now know 4 other people who were diagnosed and have died from glioblastoma.
Wow.
And that's just me. And in fact, I did a book club yesterday, and we're talking to this group of people, men and women, and it's amazing to me that men have read my book because it's really geared toward women, but a lot of men have read it and have enjoyed it. And this one man said in the course of the conversation that, yes, he lost someone from glioblastoma. I rarely have a conversation with a group of people that somebody doesn't say, yes, me, I've been there, I've lost someone. And that just breaks my heart. So I was angry, and I decided with no training, that I was going to write a book about glioblastoma. And that's what I set out to do. And so that's how it started. And once it started, there's just been no stopping it, because it ended up the book raises a lot of questions. It has garnered a lot of great reviews. It has garnered a few reviews where the people just absolutely despised a couple of the characters because they were very driven, and it just is a controversial subject in terms of what it took in my book for a woman to discover a way of eradicating the tumor from the brain, which so far, I mean, that's totally fiction, that part, because there is no way. And I watched brain surgery on the internet. I was doing so many things, locating so many pieces of medical information about glioblastoma, that Johns Hopkins contacted me and said, was I a doctor? And I said, no, but I'm researching for a book. And they said, we will gladly put you on our email list and let you know of all the clinical trials and what's going on. And they did. And it was amazing, but there was a lot of research involved. And anyway, that's how the story started. And it started out to be the story of the little girl with the brain tumor, but it ended up being the story of her best friend who grew up and found a way to remove the tumor and allow someone to live a happy, healthy life. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I have
It
goosebumps.
oh,
Oh my
well,
gosh, that's so powerful.
thank you. It was, my whole heart was in that book.
I
And
can
it
tell.
didn't dawn on me until the day it released. Now I had critique partners and beta readers who read the book. But it didn't dawn on me that perfect strangers, people who had no connection to me and would have no empathy for me as a person, were going to read my book. And I was absolutely terrified. It was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. What have I done?
Yeah, that
But
means that could happen.
and I got past that, but it was a terrifying thought. Of what amazed me is that the thought didn't occur until that actual day when it released.
But that's a great point about, as I affectionately think of it, as imposter syndrome. Sometimes it creeps up as, who am I to write this book? Sometimes it creeps up after the book is published, like, now what am I supposed to do with this thing?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so,
exactly.
but to your credit, you obviously, this was fueled by passion, a passion. There was love here, there's grief, there's anger, there's different forms of passion, if you will, but there's emotion, but I still feel like it's a form of love. I think grief is a form of love that didn't get to show itself, and anger is saying, I believe in something better. How, this is, there's a protectiveness, it cares passionately type of thing. So I feel like this book was created at the core of love, and that your readers resonated. And I love that you created divisive characters, because that is awesome. You need those kind of characters in a book. You need them to help move the plot and to help create tension and to create conflict and to show, to really help move your protagonist through, because without them, the protagonist doesn't have, they need more. They have to have
They
some
do.
growth.
Exactly. And my protagonist, Emma, she really garnered a lot of passion from my readers. As I said, some of them despised her. Some of them, and these are people who actually wrote to me, doctors, nurses who are in this field, who told me I had her spot on, who told me that this is what it takes, this total focusing on her research to the point where she ended up destroying her family life. This, in some cases, these people saw this, and I was glad to hear that, because I knew I was pushing it. And some people looked at it as, okay, they still didn't like her, but they got it. But some people absolutely despised her. But yet, for the most part, they liked the book. So the way my daughter put it is, I think, interesting, because she was one of those, the very first thing she said to me was, I hate Emma. And I said, okay. And then she said, however, she said, my idea of a good book is one that will really instill a feeling, a strong feeling in the reader. She says, so if I hate Emma, that means you did good.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what I also feel you've done with this book, by just like sharing with you that you did about being at a different book reading, for instance, or a book group, and how people said, me too. I've read this. I get this. I'm on the same page. They felt seen and they felt understood.
Yes.
And it helped them to kind of say, I'm not necessarily alone. And yes, it's fiction, but in the same breath, that doesn't mean that that didn't create a form of comfort, a form of just that sense of saying, somebody else gets it. Somebody else
Yeah.
could experience this. They put into words that maybe I didn't know to say it or how to feel, or this is happened. This is helping me. It might be creating a release. Maybe they've cried during it because they just, everything just was coming together for them, and it gave them a sense of release that they needed. But what you did was create that space for them with your book. And I think that that is a gorgeous and poignant gift that you gave your current readers and those who haven't met you yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I'm lucky in the sense that a lot of my readers, I think they saw my passion. And I think, and I speak passionately about brain tumors and beagles and anything that is in my books, I will speak passionately about. And to the point where, had I not written a book, I would not be the type of person who would, in a gathering of people, start speaking passionately about something. But because I was able to put it into words, I am somehow on paper, I'm somehow able to speak it openly and verbally. And it's freed me in a lot of ways that allows me to do that.
Yeah.
So, as I said, and I've told you this, I consider myself very fortunate, very lucky.
I love that. And I love that feeling, because that feeling of being blessed, feeling that form of gratitude, that does come through, and that your readers feel that, your community feels that, and then it enables you to pour into your book. And I have a quick question before we go to our last two, which is,
Okay.
you mentioned that you have another book. Do you want to
Oh,
tease
yes.
anything about that before we come to closure?
Oh, sure. My second book is titled My Secret to Keep. It is with my publisher, and it should be coming out the end of 2022. It basically, there's a small character in Nowhere Near Goodbye who is Emma's support system. She's an older woman, and her name is Miss Maggie, and she is who Emma goes to when Emma is just emotionally drained and lost. Because even though the woman Emma was able to make the decisions she made and act on them, she didn't do it without a cost.
Yeah.
So she paid for that with a lot of did she do the right thing? So I decided to write the story of Miss Maggie. So My Secret to Keep is actually the prequel to Nowhere Near Goodbye, and tells the story of Miss Maggie and how she got to be Emma's friend, and the family, a friend of the family, and then a friend of Emma. And Miss Maggie also, she has some secrets, and of course they are divulged by the time the book ends. But it is totally a work of passion. It is the book that means so much to me. So yes, of course, there is still, glioblastoma is still there. We take the book all the way to the point where Kate dies, and Miss Maggie finds out many things during the course of her whole journey, but Kate is in it and her family is in it. So the story is still there, but it's mostly Miss Maggie's story and how she got to be part of the story of Nowhere Near Goodbye. It's a very passionate book.
I have no doubt. That does sound pretty awesome. Barbara,
thank you.
Barbara, this has just been an awesome conversation. I've had so much fun with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would you please tell our listeners where they can connect with you and where can they get Nowhere Near Goodbye?
Okay. Nowhere Near Goodbye is sold anywhere on the internet, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any place where you can buy books online, you can buy, nowhere nearby. My website is very simple. It's www.barbaraconreyauthor. And I'd love for people to stop in and take a look at my website, maybe join my newsletter, which is surprisingly very infrequent, but I do try to keep everybody up to speed with what I'm doing. And that's it. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I have not tackled TikTok yet. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I might get to it sometime. So
Barbara, thank you so much. I am so glad you were on the show. Thank you.
I'm so pleased that you had me. I really thank you so much, Jennifer. I've loved every minute of it. You are a joy.
Thank you.